Oh my gods. What did I just watch? Hi, I'm Kate. I study classical mythology, classical archaeology, classical reception, and Percy Jackson. Welcome to my review of the 6th episode of the Percy Jackson TV show on Disney+. As always, I will be comparing the book and the TV show and talking about how I feel about the differences. The only problem is that this episode is like completely different from the book. So really, I'm just going to be telling you about how amazing this episode was. So the episode starts off by showing us that Tyson has survived the Charybdis attack. Now, do I feel like we needed this there? I would say no. I feel like the problem with it is that it makes Tyson showing up later in the episode not as dramatic. Like, it's dramatic because someone's there to save Annabeth, but it's not dramatic because, like, we didn't expect him to come back. So I feel like that is one negative I have about the episode, but I did like how they hint at Rainbow in the scene again, which is great for the end of the episode when Rainbow comes to the rescue. And it hints that Rainbow is how Tyson got to the island in the first place. And I feel like because so many people have already read the book before watching it, it's not the worst thing in the world to make it obvious to us that Tyson's coming back, because we already know. But I do feel like it would have been a little bit better for the audience who has not read the books if they had held off. But at the same time, I don't know if the scene needed, like, the shock of Tyson showing up. So I'm just kind of neutral on this scene. Also, after the Tyson scene, we have the dream sequence with the camp and Talia. And I would just like to say that I don't quite know what's going on here. I feel like maybe the dream is supposed to hint at Talia coming back to life, but if so, why is Camp already dead? Because I'm just not quite sure what's going on with this scene, and so I'm excited to see what happens, but I don't quite know what that's gonna be. Okay, moving into the main part of the episode. I like how they were trying to pretend to be sheep by just putting the fleeces on their back and being like, that'll work. Although, why were the fleeces there in the first place except to give them the idea that they can just put them on and then hide? Like, it's pretty clear that Polyphemus knows what they're doing, that he can see that they're there even though they think he can't. He can tell that there's like a bunch of normal sheep and then 2 blobs of fur. It was funny to me because as someone with pretty bad vision, I also experience people like taking my glasses off and then going, how many fingers am I holding up? And you just kind of look at them like they're an idiot because you can see how many fingers there are. You can see the outline of the shapes. Like, maybe if they stood on the other side of the room, I wouldn't be able to tell, but I probably wouldn't be able to tell with my glasses on. Without my glasses, everything's blurry, but things don't just like you lose shape, you know? So I thought it was funny that you can kind of tell that Polyphemus totally knows they're there and is just going with it on purpose. And, like, he placed the fleeces there specifically so that they would get that idea and try to sneak up to get the fleece. Like, he knows. I really appreciate how smart Polyphemus is in this episode. And these are good examples. They didn't need to tell us these things. They could just hint at them. But he's playing them the whole time, and it's pretty fantastic. Talking about Polyphemus playing them, the painted fleece was a great choice. The paint slowly dripping as Annabeth figures it out, but too late to save Percy. I was very impressed. I also liked how they're still able to use the nobody joke from the book with smart Polyphemus, because Polyphemus was too smart to think that she's actually nobody. Like, in the books, Polyphemus totally falls for it, even though she's a girl. And he knows that Odysseus was nobody and he was a guy. Like, they make Polyphemus very, very stupid in the book. And Polyphemus is not stupid in the Odyssey. He's not. So I do appreciate that they changed how they were playing with the character, but they're still able to add nobody to the plot by having Annabeth say she was sent by nobody and then jabbing him that way. I also like how she's clearly able to keep herself away from Polyphemus until Percy's in danger. When Percy and Grover and Clarice are in danger, then she makes the choice to get too close to Polyphemus and stab him in the ankle, which, of course, causes him to turn and actually get her for once and injure her. In the book, we don't know how she gets injured. She's just able to get away from him and away from him and away from him until she isn't, and we hear her scream. And that's it. So I like that there's a better reason here for why Annabeth is caught by Polyphemus. Backtracking, though, actually, two things that I brought up that happened before the big fights, which I wanted to, two things that happened before Polyphemus and Annabeth fights that I wanted to bring up real quick were when Polyphemus is talking to Grover and Clarice, he says that Pan brought him the fleece. And I find that a very weird choice. And I have, like, one theory for why they're doing this, but I don't remember Pan saying anything about this in the book, so I don't think it's book canon. I could be wrong. I haven't read the scene with Pan in book 4 in a while, but I don't remember it. But the only theory I have is that Pan wanted the Seekers, like looking for Pan, to have too hard of a time trying to find him. Like, they can look everywhere, and that can be exhausting, but if they start dying at a faster pace than they used to, then they'll be less likely to go look for him because it'll be too dangerous. And one way to make it more dangerous is to give the fleece to Polyphemus so that he can pick them off one by one. And when they don't show back up at camp, then the satyrs will eventually think that it's just too dangerous to go after Pan, and they'll give up. Do they give up? No. Like, Grover is not ready to give up. But that could be a reason for this. I still think it's weird to bring it up. I'm sure there's a reason why they've made this decision to bring this up here. But it's a weird choice. And I just wanted to bring that up real quick. Also, I didn't bring this up before, but when Grover and Clarice are trying to get out of their ropes, while Percy is trying to get down, and they're trying to tell Percy not to try to come down and save them. First of all, As a friend messaged me to say, it is really funny watching Percy just like smile so happily down at them and like wave while they're trying to yell at him that it's a trap. Just beautiful. Beautiful. I like how the show is showing Clarice as like a smart and like strong. I like how the show is showing that Clarice is smart and she's able to get her and Grover out of the ropes by breaking the mirror. Would have been nice if she had done that before Percy had showed up so that like they could talk to him. Yeah, but you know, if Percy didn't show up that day and then Polyphemus came in and the ropes were broken, he would just retie them and get rid of the mirror. So I guess it's a good idea. But I want to say again that I think they're doing a really good job with Clarice's character. Okay, going back to Annabeth though, and her getting injured, I feel like this is clearly the central focus of the episode, and for good reason. This is such a good change. Like, the book is just the 2 chapters that take place in this section of the book with the Cyclops before they get on the ship, and then there's the whole yelling on the ship thing that Odysseus does, and then Percy has to do it as well, which feels a little out of character, and just like they wanted Percy to do an Odysseus. I think we're gonna cut that out of the next episode. It's possible they're not, but like I don't really feel like it has any good reason to be there. Also, Tyson kind of hints that he killed Polyphemus, which is quite a choice, and I'll get to that. But I think they're gonna cut that part of the next episode. I don't think it's needed. I think that chapter is kind of a waste of time. But let's move on. So yes, Annabeth is injured. Percy, Clarice, and Grover cannot get out of the cave. And what happens? Tyson appears! The only thing that was surprising about Tyson appearing was that it wasn't Luke. And the only reason that was surprising was because Luke was on the island. When he first appeared on the island, I was so weirded out. I was like, what are we doing with Luke here? Though I like that he grabbed for the wrong fleece and then realized it was paint. It would have been funny if the reason he was there was to like grab the wrong fleece and then he has to find Percy and Annabeth again because he realizes he has the wrong fleece. But that's not what happened, is it? But before we get to Luke, yes, Tyson fights off Polyphemus and they both go over the side of the cliff, which sadly means that Percy, Clarice, and Grover are still in the cave. Now, this isn't a problem in the book because there's a throw-off line that Polyphemus tries to kill Annabeth by grabbing the doorway rock from the cave and using that to like throw it at Annabeth. And she somehow doesn't get hit by it because that would be deadly. But then there's an excuse for why Percy and all of them can get out of the cave, which Percy in the book purposely gets into. Unlike here where it's an accident. He was just trying to get Clarice and Grover out before the rope broke. But yes, so we're in this amazing scene where Percy is trying to get to Annabeth and Tyson and Polyphemus have fallen over the side of the cliff and she's dying and who appears but Luke? And Percy doesn't even think twice about the fact that Luke has appeared on the island. He's just like, don't hurt her. Don't hurt her. He's one-track mind, Percy. And this is just so amazing. I knew that we were focusing a little bit more on Percy's fatal flaw in the TV show than we did in this particular book. But they just did such an amazing job of highlighting it and flowing this storyline into the original book plots. And Percy just being so ready to give up on the actual quest so that he can save Annabeth. My heart. It was so good. Oh my gosh. And of course, Clarice is trying to not let it happen. Like, she understands what's going on, and she is the only person in the room that's being completely logical here. Though I will say that afterwards, she's like, you just killed us because we can't get out of the cave. And they couldn't get out of the cave anyway. Though if they had waited a little longer, Tyson would have come and gotten them out before Luke could get away. But they didn't know Tyson was still alive. They couldn't know that Tyson would be the one to win, right? So they're not banking on this. They could have assumed that they both died falling off that cliff. So, like, Percy was assuming that they were all gonna die anyway. And Annabeth was about to die in that moment. So, yes, he chose Annabeth over the quest, just like he said he'd do in the last episode. When he said he would burn down Olympus himself if he had to keep Annabeth safe. Oh my gosh. I'm still mad about the bubble missing last episode, but man, this is good. I still think if they could just somehow sneak the bubble into one of the last 2 episodes, you know? I just want the bubble scene, okay? I just want it. But oh my gosh, so good. He rips that fleece right out of Clarice's hands and gives it to Luke as quickly as he can. And of course, Luke does what we would expect, and he cares enough about Annabeth to want to save her, but he still needs to take the fleece. So he takes Annabeth. Great. Nothing bad is gonna happen there. I also want to say that I like how the show is doing a good job at portraying just how weird Annabeth and Luke's relationship is. Like, they're not trying to be like, oh no, they're just brother-sister. They're like, they care about each other deeply. How? We're not going to really make that clear. Because I don't know if either of them really know. And Annabeth tries later on in the Heroes of Olympus to be like, he was like a brother to me. But was he? Was he? I don't know about that. And I like how the show is doing a good job here. Like, Luke tries to play off how he feels about Annabeth. And I would hope he would, because if his and I hope he would, because if his feelings about Annabeth in the TV show are anything like they are in the book, or they feel like they are in the book, there's just too much of an age difference here. And that is a problem in the book too. It's not like it's been expanded here. It's always been this way. And it's always been weird. And that weird, like, first crush where you have a crush on a boy that's so much older than you, but it's weirder because the crush notices and, like, isn't off-put by a much younger girl, like, having a crush on an older guy. They actually think it's nice because, like, the girl doesn't know any better. That's kind of what their relationship has always been. But Annabeth has been smart enough to never actually do anything about it, right? I think Luke honestly might have wanted to do something about it. Luke is a weird character. Like, he's a villain, but that's not the reason I'm saying that. I'm saying that because he's just lost and confused and willing to make bad choices. And that, I feel like that would be one of them. But luckily, this book series is for children, not for creepy adults. So we're good there. I got so off topic. But yeah, I like how the show does a good job at not just showing how much Percy cares about Annabeth, but how much Luke cares about Annabeth. And this scene does a great job at kind of doing a not quite like love triangle scene where Percy has been mad at Luke this whole time, but in this moment, he doesn't need to be, Percy doesn't need Luke to convince him to save Annabeth. There's no convincing needed. They need to try to convince Clarice to save Annabeth. But Percy, in that moment, is fully ready to do anything to save Annabeth. He doesn't need Luke to convince him. And Luke doesn't even really try to convince him. He's just like, she's dying. And Percy's like, okay, I'll get you the place. Percy's the one that comes up with the idea. Like, he tries to see if Luke can get them out first. But as soon as that's thrown out the window, he's like, I don't care. Give me the fleece. I'm going to give the fleece to Luke. I do not care. He's so one-track mind here, and it's amazing. Like, my friend who I was text messaging sent me, if Clarice had not let Percy take the fleece from her, the great prophecy would have happened a lot earlier. Percy would have been like, 16? I don't need to wait that long to get rid of Olympus. Either you give me Annabeth back or you're all dead. So, good thing Clarice gave him that fleece. I mean, she didn't, but, you know, good thing he was able to get the fleece, I guess. Okay, and that is the majority of the episode. There's only two other things I really wanted to talk about. One is, when it comes to comparing this to the book, one thing that is missing, and I think is fully okay that it's missing, is Clarice and Percy fighting Polyphemus, which is what they do in the book because they're able to get out of the cave and protect Annabeth. Now, I usually would be upset when a main character fight is deleted, but this one's kind of a waste of time. It doesn't teach us anything new about either character, just, oh, they can fight pretty well, and Percy ends up, like, defeating Polyphemus, but only because he thinks about Annabeth. And it gives him a new, like, wave of energy. And all of a sudden, he's, like, an expert fighter. And that's the thing that happens to Percy multiple times in the books. And it is a way of seeing his progression. But it's not as interesting as what they did in the TV show. Also, there's the scene where Percy is holding up the sword at Polyphemus, and he could kill Polyphemus, but he reminds him too much of Tyson, and so he can't do it, and then Polyphemus tries to kill them, and then Tyson shows up. And while I think it's a good beat in the book, and for what it is, it's good, this version of Percy would not do it. I'm sorry, you saw what Percy did to save Annabeth. If he had any inkling that Polyphemus wouldn't let him save Annabeth, he would not let him live. Especially because this Polyphemus has made it clear that he's not stupid. And what Polyphemus does in the book is play like, I'm just like half blind, sad, lonely, stupid Cyclops. You can't kill me, right? But this Polyphemus has already shown he's really clever. So Percy probably wouldn't fall for it in the same way. I mean, it's possible if that happened, but I don't think that I needed to know the answer to that question. And Percy has already shown throughout this series how much he cares about Tyson. So I don't think we need that scene to make it clear to us how much Percy cares about Tyson before he shows back up. I feel like we already got that when we see the mirror with his fatal flaw in Cersei's island, and it shows him with one eye and then it turns into Tyson. I feel like that was a great way of showing that Percy really does care about Tyson, even if they have a weird sibling relationship that's complex. Like, that doesn't mean that he doesn't love Tyson. And so I don't think we needed it. But I wanted to bring it up because it is a big-ish scene that was completely cut out. And usually I hate that. But I'm going to, give this scene some leeway that it's not needed in this episode. This episode was so fantastic. Honestly, I feel like adding that or like changing the episode somehow to accommodate that scene would have messed it up. Like, this is perfect. This episode's perfect. And what better way to end an amazing episode than Hippocampy? So we get our fur Hippocampy with Rainbow, who's just adorable, at the end of the episode, which was hinted in episode 4 with Rainbow playing catch with Tyson with the bracelet that Annabeth threw into the water. While I wish that Rainbow and the others showed up at the end of the second episode to bring them to the boat, the cruise ship, like is done in the book, I feel like that would have made their appearance here make more sense. I think they did a good enough job at hinting at them ahead of time that it's okay. And they're so pretty. Also, they use the Hippocampy for the early part, and I think the movie, so changing things up a little bit's okay, but like they use them there because it's like one of the only times that the movie's accurate. Unless I'm remembering the movie wrong, I could be. But yeah, they were adorable, and Percy's in them are going to chase that boat, and they're going to get Annabeth and the Fleece back. And I am so excited. The next episode seems like it's taking place completely on the cruise ship, which is fantastic. My only question is, do they have enough for an entire episode back in Camp Half-Blood for the last episode? Because I don't know where to stop reading for this next episode. Do I just read the cruise ship scenes? Do I read all the cruise ship scenes? Are we going to end partway through the cruise ship? Also, please tell me the party ponies are coming. That's like the best scene. And we've got a hint that Chiron is in Miami with the party ponies. So, please. I know they already made the episode, but if they didn't make the episode, please bring the party ponies back. I think the episode might end right before the party ponies show up. And then the next episode will begin with the party ponies saving them, and then we'll go back to camp. Because, like, we need something to happen before we go back to camp, right? Well, anyway, that was the 6th episode of Percy Jackson, and I will hopefully see you guys back here for the last 2 episodes, though school's starting back up, and I not only take 3 college classes, but I'm teaching 1, so might be a bit busy. Anyway, I still haven't come up with a new ending, so I guess I'm just gonna say see you later.